The gospel reading for this first Sunday in Lent from John chapter 15. Jesus said, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you, so abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." The gospel of our Lord. I was feeling pretty organized last week. I had my sermon done very early in the week, and I might say it was a pretty good one. We are doing our series on things that we are thankful for, and this week we are thankful for love. Speaking of gratitude for love. And I decided to go on the light side, being it's Valentine's Day and all of that. So I had some fun little jokes. I had some interesting statistics from Men's Health, the statistics I could share with you anyway. And I was ready to go, and I had to be ready because immediately following the council meeting on Wednesday night, I had to leave for Minneapolis. I had a school board training session. I'm the newly elected clerk of your school board, and I had to learn what it means to be a clerk. My wife, Kathy, rode along with me, along with our grandson, Croy, and she was laughing all the way down. She said, "Well, I'm glad you're going down for this very intense training to learn how to sign your name on documents." Because we had Croy with us, we did not listen to the news. So when I got to my meeting very early on Thursday morning, I met one of my school board partners, Scott Steffes, who is a deputy for the Clay County Sheriff's Department. I said, "Great to see you. Scott, how are you doing?" He said, "Well, not so good under the circumstances." "What happened?" And he began to tell me about the events that at that very moment were continuing to unfold back in Fargo. So much for the light and fun Valentine's Day sermon. So yesterday I called Pastor Aaron and said, "I'd love to go fishing with you because I know you're going to be catching loads of fish and I want to be there for this event, but I have to stay home and rewrite my sermon." So the events of this past week have reminded me that February can be a very troubling month for those who have lost loved ones. February, the month in which we celebrate love, may often be more of a painful reminder of lost love rather than a sentimental or romantic observation of current love. And I must say, I even think that sometimes perhaps we err in the church. As wonderful as our Valentine love brunch is, and as wonderful of this brunch that we'll have later on this morning, which smells real good, by the way, I'm well aware that those events, too, can be reminders of love lost. On February 3rd, 1959, Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper died in a plane crash in Clear Lake, Iowa. They were en route to a rock concert here in Moorhead at the old Moorhead Armory. An interesting sidelight is my father, a 39-year-old JC member, was in the planning group, and when they heard the terrible news, they had to scramble, and as you know, Bobby V and his group filled in, and the rest there is history. But February 3rd, 1959, forever became known as the day the music died, particularly as it was immortalized in Don McLean's classic song, American Pie. For the families and the wives of Holly, Valens, and the Big Bopper, the date is carved on their hearts as the day their love died. Well, as we have been reminded, love died this past week in our community. For Officer Tim Moser's wife, Rachel, their daughter, and their son, February and Valentine's Day will forever be connected to the day their love died. And as one who lost a daughter on February 13th, 34 years ago, I know the deep pain that accompanies this month. For every Valentine's Day is a reminder of a Valentine I will not send nor receive, of a loss that occurred in our lives before we combed gray hair, a life cut short. Yet we come before you on this day, we, your staff, and your fellow Christians, many of whom we have shared deep grief and pain with throughout the years. Those of you who have days you will always mark as the day love died in your life. We do not just stand with you, before you, but we stand with you, as this entire community also stands with Rachel Moser and all of those who keep watch over us and care for us. We are united in grief, immersed in memories, and together we try to find hope in the midst of despair, a beam of light that can penetrate the darkness. This hope, this light, can emerge from a spirit of gratitude. It begins perhaps only as a thought, a memory, then a whisper, and ultimately a clear, albeit an unsteady voice that learns once again to say thanks for love. Thanks for love birthed. Thanks for love nurtured. Thanks for love enjoyed. Yes, thanks even for love endured. And yes, even love lost, no matter how that love was lost. I remember very well a funeral of one of your loved ones, a man who died far too young. It was an unbearable time, and I urged from this pulpit, I urged the widow of this man to thank God for giving her someone to love so much that it was so darn hard to say farewell to them. Those are hard words to find, hard words to say, but we must say them, for they honor the one whom we have lost, as well as the one, God, who gave us our loved one. ELCA pastor Corinne Chilstrom wrote, after she lost a son to suicide, a book called Andrew, You Died Too Young. It's in our library. She wrote this: grief is the price we pay for love. Tennyson wrote years ago in his poem In Memoriam, I hold it true, whatever befall, I feel it when I sorrow most. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. A dear friend of mine said profound words after I asked him how he was coping with his wife's total loss of memory, complete loss and change of personality, and forgetting, in fact, who he was, because she was suffering from severe Alzheimer's disease. And he said with tears in his eyes, I love what I have left, because love is all that I have left. C.S. Lewis wrote of love in his book entitled The Four Loves. I commend his descriptions to you as we contemplate what it means to be thankful for love during this season of our lives. Lewis recognized the fact, as many have, that our English word for love is simply not adequate to describe the vastness, the complete world that love totally encompasses. And he describes those four Greek expressions of love, a couple of them that are familiar, but maybe some that maybe aren't. So, storge, family love, the love of a parent for a child, a love based on dependency, a love that can even turn through the years as the parent becomes dependent on the child, or a spouse becomes dependent on us. It's a caring love. And then the familiar philia love, a love between friends, appreciative love, comfortable love, compassionate, not sexual love. And then eros, perhaps what is celebrated on this very day, romantic love, being in love, heart beating, take your breath away love that sometimes is expressed sexually. But finally, and perhaps most importantly, as we face these situations we've talked about, agape love, God's love, unconditional love, a love that the King James defined as charity, a love which serves regardless of circumstances, endures regardless of circumstances, agape love, that for God so loved the world sort of love, that love never ends sort of love, that the greatest of these is love sort of love. So today we come together to grapple with what it means to be thankful for love in all circumstances. We need to remember how fleeting these human loves of storge, of philia, and eros really are. At the same time, they are precious, indeed they are. Memorable, certainly. Seemingly impossible to live without, I would agree with that. Hence the pain and the joy of Valentine's Day. But the awful remembrances of the days when love died in our lives remind us that every day we miss all of our loves lost. But thank God for agape love, God's love, which hopes in all things, believes in all things, endures in all things, even the death of our human-defined loves. We come together to thank God for agape love, God's love, the only love which is capable of uniting all of our loves into eternal keeping and reuniting. In spite of all the pain, amidst all my ever-accumulating list of loves lost, my heart is full, and I am grateful for love, because I trust in my heart the biblical promise that God's agape love never ends. May you all know and trust this agape love of God.